They do not understand that money is loaned into creation. Read my lips. It is loaned into creation. You can't keep on inventing money out of nothing and having it paid back with interest. It cannot happen mathematically. It's an exponential function, and yet it has to blow up. It must blow up. It can only blow up.
What's going down in the financial world?
Look, certainly from an Australian perspective, I've noticed a real change in tone lately in the press, in the mainstream media. Now, we all know the mainstream media is pretty much full of nonsense in terms of they only put the official line and so on, right? But I've noticed a distinctive change in tone, a little bit of a panic tone regarding everything to do with the economy in the mainstream media. All around, for ages and ages and ages now, we've been told that everything's fine, but all of a sudden we may have a housing bubble. All of a sudden our terms of trade are going negative, like down. The price of iron ore is going down. The dollar, the Australian dollar, is starting to actually go in the other direction. It's not actually going up against all other currency, it's going down. And the official line's becoming, I think, a little bit hysterical and a little bit panicked. And we can go into a lot of discussion about exactly how and why and where and so on, but I just noticed things like there's bickering starting to break out about the idea around whether low interest rates are a good idea. And this is remarkable in the modern central bank managed world. I mean, these guys, all they know how to do is lower interest rates. That's basically all they know how to do. And they've lowered them and they've lowered them, they've lowered them and they've lowered them. And all they've been doing is buying time for something to fix itself. And what's the something? The something is this massive overhang of debt in the world, in the economies. The idea behind plunging interest rates to the lows was to actually allow things to fix themselves, allow some of the debt to be cleared, allow things to get sort of self-sustaining so that they can start raising rates again and start going back to a more normal economy. Well, here we are 5 or 6 years after the GFC, so-called, and still interest rates are on the bottom, and still asset prices are going up, and still there are these bubbles everywhere, and things just aren't getting any better. And all of a sudden it starts looking like, oh shit, things might actually be getting worse. And you say, well, how can they be getting worse after all these years of central bank management? How can they possibly be getting worse? Well, the reason why they get worse is because, what actually happens is when you have economies that are founded on speculative enterprise instead of genuine enterprise, sooner or later your luck's going to run out. And what do I mean by this? I mean, why, if you can just buy assets and sit and wait for them to go up and then cash them in, why would you actually do anything productive if that's how you can make a living? And when you have central bank policy that encourages people to do exactly that, encourages firms to do exactly that, is it any wonder that sometime down the track you're going to discover that actually everyone's speculating and no one's investing anymore? Well, that's where we are. That's what's happening. So you have housing bubbles. By definition, the price of assets is going up much, much quicker than incomes. It's going much, much quicker than the ability of those assets to repay themselves when they are leveraged against loans. You end up in a situation where debt grows and grows and grows and grows to a point where the actual servicing of the debt is no longer possible because the debt's too big. And that in economic circles is known as a Minsky moment. It's like the reckoning time when you realize that actually if for every single dollar of growth in the economy you have to inject $5 worth of debt, you know that sooner or later someone's going to wake up and realize that this isn't going to work because the debt is growing quicker than the growth. And that's what's been going on. We've been told that the world's been deleveraging since the GFC. We hear these statements about how interest rates are low, everyone can delever, the debts can all go down. That's just utter garbage. There's been no delevering at all. The debts now are bigger than they were before the GFC.
So what do all these financing bodies in Australia, what do they actually do and why are they there?
Well, I find it really, really interesting that now we have the Reserve Bank. And think about this, the Reserve Bank is the setter of the price of money. That's all these guys do. They set interest rates and they jawbone around interest rates. Now we have a situation where the Reserve Bank has engineered interest rates to record lows. As a consequence, we've got asset bubbles. The Reserve Bank starts getting worried about this asset bubble. But the only thing they will not do is what they're supposed to do, which is do something about the bubble using the thing that they are empowered to use, which is interest rates. They won't raise interest rates. They will not raise rates. Because the orthodoxy is you can't raise rates. Because if you raise rates, you're going to squash everything. You're going to kill everything. If you raise rates, you're going to get rid of all the speculative capital and you are going to force people to earn a damn living, not just sit and wait for asset prices to go up. But they will not do it. So my question is, if the Reserve Bank is there to lower and raise rates, and they won't lower or raise rates, they just sit there doing nothing, then why are they there? They're supposed to be independent. Clearly they're not. They are not apolitical. Because they will not raise rates, because politically it can't be done. Okay? So what happens now? The Reserve Bank takes credit for all the speculative excess while the going's good, because they lowered rates. But now that the time has come to remove the punch bowl, to actually say to people, sorry, free money's over, they will not do it. They turn around and say, APRA must do it. Macro-prudential controls must come in. We must do something about the asset bubble, but not us. Someone must do something, but we're not going to do it. Well, then why are you there? You have all the regulators who all stand around and do nothing. They are all enablers of this fantasy that you can just keep on increasing the debt. And it is no surprise, because our financial system relies on it, because don't forget, there are probably 90% of politicians and people out there who simply do not understand money. They don't understand where it comes from. They don't understand where it's created. They don't understand it. They do not understand that money is loaned into creation. Read my lips. It is loaned into creation. In other words, $100,000 is loaned by a bank out of nothing. Now $100,000 is owed. Okay? But remember this. That $100,000 is owed with interest. In other words, money's being created out of nothing, but it must be paid back with interest. In other words, even more must be paid back than what was being loaned out. The only way that can happen in a debt-based economy is if there's infinite growth. Because if there isn't infinite growth, mathematically, you can't keep on inventing money out of nothing and having it paid back with interest. It cannot happen mathematically. It's an exponential function, and yet it has to blow up. It must blow up. It can only blow up. But no one wants it to blow up on their watch. So everyone pushes the can down the road and hopes to hell that they won't be there when the thing goes bang. And I'm just seeing around me at the moment, there's a realization that the last 6 or 7 years of monetary policy is not working. So the prescription of the mandarins out there and the gurus out there is, it's not working. That must mean we must do more of it.
So do you think Joe Hockey understands financing?
I doubt it. I absolutely doubt it. I don't understand. I can't see how any serious politician can believe that you can have a monetary system where you have a financial system of you have the financial sector that can basically create money out of nothing in the form of debt, and how that isn't going to end up somehow with them owning the world, writing the rules, capturing all the politicians, dictating how things are going to be. Hence the bailouts, hence the mess we're in. And I think that we've got to the point now where the huge dilemma faced by the Hockeys of this world is, in a consumer-based society, in the end, if you kill the consumer, and think about this, for the last 20 years or something, prices have been going inexorably up. House prices have gone through the roof. Asset prices of every description are going through the roof. Consumer prices are going up. Everything's going up. Even though they say there's low inflation, even though they say price of iPods and this and that and so on, electronics goods are going down, they're not actually going down. They're still going up. The amount of money that people are spending on technology and smartphones and all these things and white goods and whatever is still going up. It's not going down. Because it can't go down. Because if it goes down, that's called a recession. Now, I'm just saying to you, if you live in a world where the price of everything must go up, but the spending power, the wages, the earnings of the people who spend the money don't go up, explain to me how a system like that can survive. There is only one answer. The answer is debt. Take on more debt. Take on more debt. Take on more debt. Drive interest rates down so people can take on more and more and more and more debt. You can see, in the end, even that is going to run out of steam, because there comes a time, even with zero interest rates, when you can have too much debt, because you still have to pay the debt back, even if the interest rate is zero.
Okay, so what do you say about Hockey and Abbott's mantra to get rid of the country's debt?
Well, I'm saying if you want to get rid of the country's debt, then that's fine. I don't have a problem with that, but go get rid of it. Don't actually increase the debt by actually getting rid of some of it by penalising some. There is no government anywhere that's reducing its debt. The Australian government's not doing it. The American government's not doing it. Even the Europeans, in all their austerity, in Greece, in Spain, in Italy, all these countries that apparently are on the brink of disaster because there's so much debt. There's austerity to the point where people are rioting in the streets. Even they are still increasing their debt. No one is reducing their debt. Don't be fooled by that. Because the definition of reducing debt is anathema to these kind of corporate capitalists. They are the ones who issue the debt. They are the ones who profit from issuing the debt. What makes you think they're going to reduce the debt? They're just going to call it something else. They're just going to shift it somewhere else on the balance sheet. They're just going to make it someone else's problem. They're not going to reduce it. If Hockey wants to reduce the debt, he needs to reduce the debt by either cutting spending or by raising taxes. Cutting what spending and raising whose taxes? 80% of Australians' biggest corporations don't pay any tax. Oh, that's not a problem. The fact that the little guy's not paying his tax is the problem. Okay? As far as spending goes, gee whiz, universities are too expensive, hospitals are too expensive, but there's no expense spared in putting in toll roads. There's no expense spared in sending people to fight off in foreign wars. The debt's going up. The spending's going up. It's a question of who is going to pay for the fact that the balance sheet's not working. That who's going to pay for the fact that actually there isn't enough to go around, because all that money is a claim on resources. It's a claim on something. I've got $1, I can demand a lollipop. I've got $1, I can demand some bricks. It's a claim on resources. When there are not enough resources to go around, because don't forget, when you multiply the money supply by 5 because you're just printing the stuff, you've got 5 times as many claims on resources flying around out there. The resources didn't multiply by 5. So who the hell is going to find out when they come to cash in their dollar that the resource isn't there? That is the big argument that we're going to have. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be the big corporates who are going to have to pay more taxes and actually go with a little bit less? Or is it going to be the guys on the dole? Or is it going to be the military-industrial complex? Is it going to be the bankers? Is it going to be the guys who print the money? Who is going to take the pain? That's the only argument, because the pain's coming.